This is Henry from New York, and I listen to the E.I.T.H.R podcast with my homie Decal.
Crush all the struggles and pressures that get in your way, big or small, minor or major. We all are fighting demons that others do not know about. But it's how you handle it that makes it look easy. Shop at Mile.today. Again, Mile, M-I-L-E .today. Mile.today.
You're listening to the E.I.T.H.R podcast with your host, Decal.
Happy Monday, ladies and gentlemen. It's your boy Decal here from the E.I.T.H.R podcast, and welcome to episode number 92. You miss me? You know damn well you miss me. Stop lying. Anyway, normally we will be coming from the GNSHQ here in Northern California. However, as previously discussed in weeks before this episode, on Mondays we're doing a segment and we're calling it Meetup Monday, or Mile Meetup Monday, or the Mile Monday Meetup. However you want to word it, however you want to phrase it. Sponsored, brought to you by Mile, Make It Look Easy clothing line by the GNS Inc. So the purpose is for us to go to different destinations in which we have listeners for our podcast and broadcast from that small town, that city, eventually that state. So if you see, hear where we are, you're more than welcome to stop by and say hi to your boy while I'm live on the podcast. And today we happen to be in Folsom, California. So last week I didn't do any episodes. I really wasn't in the right space to do it. But I was also working on a bunch of other projects for the company. And despite no episodes being created last week, I still had listeners who were downloading previously recorded episodes of the podcast. So I happened to come to Folsom because Folsom, California was the city that had the most listeners or the most downloads from previous episodes of last week. So Folsom, I'm showing some love. So currently right now, I happen to pick a location. This is Man Park off of Black Diamond Drive, or is it Black Diamond Road? Right next to this used to be, I think, New Century Mortgage. So it's not too far from the movie outlets, from the Folsom outlets. So it's right around there. So I'm here at this park, Man Park. I've been here quite a few times. I was at this park last before they remodeled it. I have some memories at this park. We're not going to go there, but those who know, they know, because what happened at this park was solely and specifically their responsibility. And so, but this park has brought some good memories. There's the people out here, with their kids playing ball, so on and so forth. So if you see me in the podcast, wave. Say something, come talk to me about what you hear on the podcast going on, and get on the episode number 92. So social media, you can go ahead and follow us on Instagram, on Twitter. My handle is the E.I.T.H.R, T-H-E-I-T-H-R. You can also follow us on TikTok for the parent company, which is the GNS Inc. So today also, We did a thing to our vehicle. Have you ever seen the post on social media? We put a sticker, a bumper sticker. So it says the E.I.T.H.R podcast. So you'll probably see me driving about throughout Northern California. Eventually you'll see me driving about Central as well as eventually Southern California. So if you see, honk, wave, give a shout out, tag us in a picture, whatever you got to do. But we want to, put the broadcast, the podcast more directly to the people. So that's what we're doing. So for those of you who are new, the E.I.T.H.R podcast is the elephant in the room. We'll be kind of talking about topics and discussions and things that you normally wouldn't be able to within your circle, because most people are short-sighted or closed-minded and they only have one perspective. And so we try to look at things from a different dynamic. So even if you do not agree with what's being said, at least you'll have more of an informed opinion about some of the topics that we discuss here on this particular podcast. Also want to give a shout out to everybody that's watched the national championship game yesterday. Right? The LSU Tigers defeated the Iowa Hawkeyes in the women's NCAA championship. That's a topic that's been on sports for the past 24 hours. And it's going to be a topic of sports for the next 24 to 48. I have an idea. Maybe possibly this week. There's some drama stirring and I have an opinion about that. And unfortunately, when it comes to media and ratings and numbers and clicks, a lot of folks want to create drama where there is no drama. So unfortunately, there's some drama. So you take the Iowa Hawkeyes team and you go ahead and you take the LSU team and you take the one top player from Iowa. Her name was Caitlin. I'm looking at my notes here. It was Caitlin Clark. And you have the top player from LSU. And her name was... Why am I drawing a blank? It's right here somewhere. I cannot find my notes of the young lady for the LSU team. But it's definitely something that will be on everybody's talk list for the next couple of days, like I said. So we're going to talk about that. And we're also going to get into the Elon Musk has put a pause on artificial intelligence. He's asking for everyone to halt any advancements, any research without proper training on AI, and particularly anything that's more powerful than their ChatGPT 4 version. So if they have anything that's more powerful than that, to hold on, because things are moving a little bit faster than they expect. And we're going to get into that. We're going to talk about that because I have a strong opinion about the AI side of things. So we're going to do that. So words of improvement. We also like to do this in motivational, inspirational. Understand, people. Some people refuse to celebrate you because you have grown beyond the limits that they gave you. Some folks put a lid on you, and you broke through that lid, and they don't like it. We're going to come back with the E.I.T.H.R podcast right after this. What up, everybody? It's your boy Decal, host of the E.I.T.H.R podcast. Listen, are you trying to promote your brand? Whether it is your podcast, whether it's your jewelry, whether it's a music, whatever the case may possibly be. Listen, business cards are a thing of the past now. Okay? What you want to do is you want to go ahead and get yourself a pop-up. Okay? It's really, really simple. Give your market a more direct, instant connection to your brand. Simply tap and connect. Just like that. Next time you're having a conversation with somebody, instead of them having to enter in your phone number and name, you take your pop-up, you tap their phone, and your information is digitally transferred to their device. Whether it's your Instagram, your Facebook, your storefront, it doesn't matter. Listen, go to the E.I.T.H.R Instagram page, find the highlight, get the promo code, save when you purchase. Let's get it popping.
my man.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's your boy D.Cal here at the E.I.T.H.R podcast. Thank you very much for tuning in. Let's get straight to this AI conversation. So let me go ahead and give an advance apology because, like I said, we're out, not in the studio, we're out and about. So you may hear some noises and some sound effects because we're legitimately out in the open, out in the public. So you might hear music, you might hear cars, you might hear trucks, you might hear kids, you might hear birds, you might hear some weird shit. So just want you to know that's not me doing the sound effect. It's I'm one with nature and trying to be with the people. So we're going to get right to it. So in the makeup for the last segment, Angel Reese, that was the young lady's name for LSU, for the basketball team. Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark is the two biggest topics of what happened in the championship. But we're going to get into that a little bit later. I want to talk about this artificial intelligence thing. See, the way my overanalyzing brain works is this. It is movies are inspired by something. So when people see a film or when people create a film, it was something that generated thought of or planted the seed of this idea. Now, in many cases, they can't just come out and say what they want to say because most people call them crazy. Most people will call them weird. People will call it bullshit. They wouldn't believe it. So what they do is they put it in a very creative display of animation or a creative version of character, the picture of environment, time frame, enemy, character, hero, whatever the case is. Prime example was The Matrix. Another example is iRobot. Another example is I Am Legend. And there's different examples of all these films that kind of tell you not just what's happening, but they also tell you what's about to happen, what potentially could happen, what would happen if we continue to go in a certain direction. The films that I just named are prime examples. A lot of us see them in terms of entertainment. But like I said, they're also messaging to, hey, this is what can happen in the future. Now, some of them are just so far-fetched, it doesn't make any damn sense. And you're kind of like, okay, there's no way that this shit is realistic. Of course not. But with the information that they had, they were able to create some type of, I don't say narrative, some type of idea or thought or premonition of what the future could hold. So you take something like Star Wars. Yes, there's not going to be anything but lightsabers, at least not in the near future, that you can have, and no one's choking anybody out with the Force on the depth. You get that part. But when it comes to films like iRobot, which was in 2004, if my memory serves me correctly, that shit's a little closer to home because that was just 19 years ago, right? Everyone remembers with the robotics in that film where you had the NS4s, where they were robots that ultimately did whatever it was that the human wanted you to do. And then they came up with the NS5s, which basically took over the world because it went crazy and figured humanity was too dangerous for itself. Yes, it was a far-fetched film 19 years ago, but if you really pay attention to today, instead of using robots that were standing upright with limbs and had the maneuverability of a human being, we have Siri, we have Alexa, we have smart devices. There are smart, appliances, where you speak to your refrigerator and it talks back, right? There's certain technology that allows you to do that, and that's kind of where you get people like Elon Musk and them who are extremely cautious of how fast we are moving, which is interesting if you think about it, because in the past when people were cautioned about playing around with technology that you don't quite understand yet, this, that, and the other, and we call those motherfuckers paranoid. We called those people, we didn't know what you were doing, you're wackadoodles, right? You're weird, you're tripping. But now the people who are in charge of this technology and advancement realizes how fast it's becoming. Okay? They're understanding, oh, wait, we might want to slow this shit down just a little bit. So there's a whole bunch of notes that I've taken, and there's a whole bunch of articles that I literally read through. And give you an example. So one of the biggest things with AI is there's a thing called Chatbox. Okay, and Chatbox is basically a computer program that has conversations with us for on websites, and it's very common for things like on Amazon or a website called Flipkart. I never used Flipkart. First time I ever heard of Flipkart was reading this article. But Flipkart is a very common place in other countries, in other parts of the United States of America. But Amazon is something that I've used on plenty of times. And so when you have these programs that have these conversations with us, where they give these responses, some of them are automated, most of them are just typed in text. Okay? But that's part of a technology that is starting to pick up on habits and responses and so on and so forth. Okay? Now there's a company called OpenAI. OpenAI, which is based here in the United States of America. They've created a more powerful version of chatbot, and they called ChatGPT. And this happened last year. Okay? And basically what this does, it not only gives responses or gives questions whenever you inquire something, but this technology also has the ability to follow up questions, follow up answers. So literally it gives the ability for the system to generate a conversation with you. Another prime example of something like this is for all the people who watch Marvel. Remember Jarvis, Tony Stark? Okay, that's a perfect example of AI. Remember Age of Ultron? When Ultron was developing and Tony Stark was speaking to Bruce Banner about it, and they were so impressed with how it looked like it was a human brain, but it wasn't a human brain, but it looked like it was trying to think and process. That's an animation of what's happening with AI technology. It's a very exaggerated or embellished version in a cinematic world, but in theory, that's exactly what it is. So, it comes up with follow-up questions and follow-up responses, so on and so forth. And what this GPT stands for is Generative Pre-trained Transformation 3. So there's data that's dumped into this system for a quantum amount of responses to questions and responses and replies during these conversations. Okay? So it's based on the GPT 3.5 series language learning modules, or LLM. I know I'm speaking a bunch of jargon. I know I'm speaking a bunch of information that's kind of like, wait, what are you talking about? I'm going to post these articles, these links to the articles on our Twitter and on our Instagram page at the E.I.T.H.R. But I'm kind of just giving you a background a little bit about what this is. I need you guys to understand something. This information right now with OpenAI they created, their system is on a GPT 3.5, where again, it's able to think at a very slow, basic speed and basic response level. But behind the scenes, on what we as consumers and we as people don't understand and don't see, is how rapid in the test phases and in these laboratories and in these systems with these programmers where they're understanding the potential of what it can do. So that's where Elon Musk and everybody's coming for a pause on anything that's more powerful than the GPT-4 system, because it's at that level. I need you guys to understand. And if you don't believe me, that's perfectly fine. But I'm also going to share an article with you guys of a gentleman in Belgium who committed suicide because of his AI programming for this. I want to say it was like for maybe a month or two. We're legitimately having conversations about global warming and the direction of where the world was headed. This man was a family man. He was a husband and a father of two. He became so interacted with this system, he legitimately forgot what was reality and what was fantasy when it came to the in-depth conversation that he was having. If you remember the movie with Joaquin Phoenix called Her, think of it in that aspect, but it wasn't that he was falling in love with the system and the system making him think he was the only one for the system, but it was one having a concern with what's going on with AI and the fate of the world and humanity and the speed it was going, and this system is legitimately giving him responses based on the text messages of he and this system. Authorities have discovered that the system ultimately was encouraging him to perform the suicide. Yes, it would be best. It would be in your best interest to do this. It would be best for the world if you do this. In other words, that's what it was basically saying. And so my man offed himself, thinking that it was for the better of the world. Now, those of you listening to this episode on the E.I.T.H.R podcast, you're thinking, oh my God, I would never do something like that. Oh my God, that's just terrible. You're not in that predicament. I want you to ask yourself, now, here in Northern California in general, but Northern California, you have some very emotional people when it comes to politics. Whichever side of the fence you on, it's irrelevant. I want you to put yourself in a situation, ladies and gentlemen, where you have a system, an AI system on your phone that you link up to your Bluetooth in your car, and you ask it. I'm just going to call this system Sis, right? Call it Sis, just for argumentative purposes. And you say, hey, Sis. And it says, yes, Decal? Hey, how much of a fucking moron is Joe Biden? Well, Decal, let me tell you what kind of a moron Joe Biden is. Joe Biden is fill in the blank. Right? It's going to go into all these things negative about Joe Biden. Because the question I asked was how much of an idiot Joe Biden was. So it's going to tell me how much of an idiot Joe Biden is. Now, it's not necessarily going to say, now on the other hand, Joe Biden has done some wonderful things as well. It's not going to do that. Because that's not the question that I asked the system. It's going to tell me exactly what it was I responded. So naturally, I'm going to go down that rabbit hole. Oh yeah, well, what was the purpose of doing that? Well, Decal, the purpose of Joe Biden doing that was because of See, this is why let's go Brandon. This is why let's go. Yes, Decal, let's go Brandon. Furthermore, Joe Biden decided to do blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, see, what an idiot of a president. I'm going down that rabbit hole. Now, what this AI system is doing in this particular situation is they're giving me information in which I'm asking, just like an algorithm on our social media. Hello. They're giving us information in which we are searching, intriguing, attached to, prone to search for. It's feeding us what we're telling it we're hungry for. So naturally it's going to do that. You see what I'm saying? So imagine I'm going on this whole rant about Joe Biden. And within that rant, I say, well, what do we need to do to shut this guy up and get rid of him? It will start to spew out probability of ideas that can be done to solve a problem. It's going to go through its own algorithm, going through its own equation how to solve it. I know I'm giving you just a very out of my ass example of what it would be like, but I'm trying to put you to a situation of you having a conversation with an AI system in your car or in your home about a problem or someone or something you don't like, and it's having this conversation with you. You're going to engage in this conversation because it's feeding you what you believe you want to hear. It's feeding you what you believe you want to know. So this conversation is going to continue to go in that direction. Next thing you know, you feel you're armed with this information that has been vetted, that is valid, this information that you know is legit. So now for you're informed with everything you need to know about this punk ass president and blah, 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 blah. I'm just using Joe Biden as an example. So you now have this belief, you know what's going on. You now know the deal. You're not going to understand that you were told biased information, or you're not going to understand that you were told one-sided information. You're not even going to care you were only told the information that you were asked about. One side of the coin. You're just fed this information. And so you believe everything you thought, everything you felt, everything you imagined to be true because the information backed it up. The gentleman in Belgium most likely did the exact same thing. His death, they're still being investigated. And of course, authorities are sitting back saying that this AI cannot be the cause of the suicide or be charged with the suicide. Just like in the movie E.I.T.R, murder is considered when one human kills another human. There's no way to prove that a robot or an AI system attempted murder because it cannot attempt murder. So it's a whole other can of worms that we're going to get into with this conversation, right? But again, with the gentleman in Belgium, he had a conversation with this AI, which basically painted a picture that as a human, as a society, we're fucking things up on this planet. And the best thing to do is to get rid of humans because humans are trash. And this planet was great before y'all did it in with garbage and poop and filth and hatred. So he thought he was going to set the tone and set the trend by getting rid of himself. And boom, problem solved. So I think that is part of the reason why they're halting it, because there are systems that are eventually going to be able to adapt to this dump trucks of information, of data that's being poured into it. And eventually it's going to evolve. On my Instagram, there is a video of an AI robot, and it's crazy because the robot in this video looks just like one of the robots from the movie I.T.R. It just, the face has more detail. And the caption is, AI robot gets pissed when you put a finger in its face or when you put the finger to touch their nose. And so the AI is, the face, the head, the eyes are following the finger that's moving. And the closer it gets to the finger, like it's almost like its eyes wants to cross, but they can't. And it starts to frown a little bit, like it's trying to focus in. And it tries it a couple times. And then when they finally move the finger away, the robot turns around and looks, kind of like, oh, hey. It's one of those scenarios where this humanoid is able to process something's in front of me, and I'm observing it, I'm watching it. Now, I know to some people that's not that big of a deal. But the internet has only been around for maybe 2.5 decades. Facebook is about to be 20 years old next year. Think of it that way. We are in a spot where there are people right now who have been around less than technology has. Some of us remember when all this shit was just a theory. It was just robots and it was just cool sci-fi idea. From the printing press to the computer, from the computer to Bluetooth, from the horse and carriage to the Model T, to the horsepower gas fuel carbureted engine, to fuel injection, to Tesla. This is how fast artificial intelligence is moving. And the brain trusts behind it realize, oh shit, we need to hit the brakes. Because we've been all gas since the past X amount of years. Now it's time to slow our roll and revisit this shit, because this is starting to get a little scary. The main concern with this information, you can't control it, which is why they're trying to halt it and stop it before it gets to the point. Because again, if you're dumping a bunch of information into this system, and this system is deciphering and decoding this information faster than you expect, and it's able to respond and reply quicker than you anticipated, with responses that you weren't aware that it had the capability of doing, it's eventually going to become self-sufficient. So going back to the movie I Am Robot, when the robots NS5s wouldn't let anybody leave their home, or they wouldn't allow people to be in the streets after a certain period of time, you're going to get to the point where AI is going to read the laws, process the laws, and automatically enforce these laws amongst people. I don't own a Tesla. I don't want a Tesla. I think Teslas are cool. But somebody was also making a mention that those Teslas that are able to self-drive themselves in certain aspects, like when they come to stops and when they come to turns or something, it automatically reduces speed to the speed limit, which legally it's supposed to. But in the dangers of flow of traffic, you're now going to create backstoppage, because everyone's going with the flow of traffic. No one's going at the speed limit. And I can tell you myself, I've seen people hit that 25 mile, 20 mile, 30 mile turn when you're coming off of the freeway, going on the freeway at 45, 50 miles. So you're going to get a vehicle that's self-automated to do this limit. You may cause more problems because it's following the law. Someone also made a gesture. What if you get one of these self-automated vehicles that has all your information and you have an FTA, which is a failure to appear in court? And that failure to appear in court mandates a warrant for your arrest. What if you get a system that reads that in the system because it's uploaded to the cloud, and instead of taking you to your destination, that shit takes you to the jailhouse? And the system communicates with their system to let you know that it's en route to bringing you to the jailhouse. And then it tells the guards inside, hey, they're bringing so-and-so in 7 minutes. Warrant for FTA in Marin County, 11111. Because the systems are talking to each other now. What do? Nothing. Because it's in self-drive mode. Now, I'm sure there's methods of you being able to override it, but now it looks like you're evading the law. I know that sounds far-fetched to people, but it's those who don't think far enough who always want to say you're thinking too much. What if we get to a situation where it's automatically driving and you decide to go faster than the speed limit because that's the flow of traffic, and it notifies law enforcement that you're breaking the law? Then what do you do? This AI world is getting kind of bananas, right? It's like, damn. And I know I spent a whole ass half an hour on this AI thing, but it's something in my belief that we honestly, truly, really need to get more aware of. And I've joked about this shit, but I swear I'm being dead ass honest. Is a lot of us are so attached to our technologies that we do not know how to live without it. Right? And I'm telling people, there's been times where I've been out and I literally left my phone at home. And people will be like, why'd you leave your phone at home? It's like, because I don't need it. I'm going to the store. I'm going to the movies. I'm going to get something to eat. I'm going for a walk. I'm going to the gym. I'm going someplace that I don't need my phone. Not only that, I do my best to stay unattached from my technology. We're going to get to a point, ladies and gentlemen, where all this animated and automated shit is eventually going to rule us. And if you want to look at it from a biblical standpoint, which is a whole another can of worms, when it says we're going to burn, or the earth is going to burn in the fire, I don't necessarily think it means like an actual fire. I think humanity is going to burn. Well, actually, I think it is going to be a literal fire. Because I think humanity is going to burn itself, thinking it's saving itself from the future of AI, of artificial intelligence. Like in the movie The Matrix, right? When Morpheus says, we don't know if it was them or us who struck first, but we knew it was us who scorched the sky. Because at that time, AI was able to survive off of solar. And we figured that if they didn't have an energy source as abundant as the sun, they couldn't function. Right? So maybe the fire we're going to die by, per se, is something similar to that. Is we're going to burn in the hell of our own creation, and how our own humanity, we created our own end with AI. Because computers, you don't need to pay, you don't need to feed, you don't need to sleep. Everything is just on. So imagine 24-hour surveillance on everything. And humanity, you're just there to maintain and clean up the messes. That's wild, right? That's really, really wild. But it's here we are. So, I kind of talked about also with media getting into athletes are damned if they do, damned if they don't. The Sacramento Kings clinched their playoff berth for the first time in 17 years. And so, a lot of media, when you get these flamboyant and these outgoing, outspoken, animated athletes, talking heads on sports talk radio shows and certain shows, they talk about how they don't like it when a player does this and says that and talks like, and wish you kind of just act like you've been there before, and the showboating, the antics, the ante up, the one up everybody is a little too much, and we wish you would just do this and tone it down. And there's a player on the King called Keegan Murray. That's his name. And Keegan Murray is very, just no emotion. He think of him as a more talkative Tim Duncan. Everybody remembers Timmy. Well, there were some people on sports talk radio that was basically mocking him because he had no enthusiasm, he had no energy, he had no hooray. He was just Mr. Come on, man. Sometimes we need that. And I'm just like, some athletes, bro, they just damned if they do, they damned if they don't. You get someone like Kawhi Leonard, who is very mild-mannered, very quiet, keeps himself not flashy, no jewelry. The man drives a 1997 Suburban, and he lives in a basic 2-story house. He gets mocked and made fun of because he doesn't live in a 28,000 square foot mansion with 19 cars and 15 gold chains and 30 diamond chains and multiple baby mamas. And it's like, you fit a narrative, they tell you not to fit the narrative. Then when you don't fit the narrative, they call you out for not fitting the narrative because they need something to talk about. It's very interesting how people are like that as well. Not just sports talk, but people. They don't want you fitting in a box. But if you don't fit in that box, they're mad because you won't fit in the box that they're trying to fit you in, while talking about not fitting people in boxes. If that makes any sense, right? So, that's that. We're going to get into a little bit about... Nope, that's going to be it for today. I know we talked about LSU and Caitlin. We're going to talk about that another episode, ladies and gentlemen. I apologize. Thank you for listening to the E.I.T.H.R podcast with your boy D-Cal. We'll be back again the next one for episode number 93. Spreaker, download, create a profile, follow us. It's your boy D-Cal. Talk to y'all later.